Hello and welcome to another Franchise Hockey Manager stream. Actually, welcome to a brand new Franchise Hockey Manager 10 stream. My name is Adam. I'm the Community Manager of Franchise Hockey. With me, as always, and not pictured on your screen, is FHM producer Jeff. Say hi, Jeff.
Hey, everybody.
And we are here to talk more about Franchise Hockey Manager 10. Jeff, we're looking at lots of the new features and other things that are in Franchise Hockey Manager 10, which, as of us making this video right now, is releasing in 6 days' time.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen, looked on Steam today, it's now the store page is now up there. If you want to have a look at that, trailer and screenshots and so on are up there. It's pretty much everything we've shown here. But if you want to check that out, it's there. The game won't actually be on sale until till it's released morning of next Tuesday morning. I've got it set right now to release at 5 a.m. Pacific time, which is a little earlier than we've done it in the past. Trying to balance it between doing it when there's somebody in the office with Valve in Seattle if something goes wrong with the Steam release, and making sure it's not too late in the day over in Germany if there's something wrong at our end with the other releases or web page or anything. So that's kind of in the middle of those. So it'll be available a little bit earlier this year. So 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, and 2 Central European. I think it's 2. I think it's 2. Yeah, that's right. So that page is active now. The store page on our site, I think they're still working on that. I sent in all the materials for it the other day, so that should be up shortly as well. But let's have a look at the new features. If anybody wants to see anything in particular, let me know. Or if you got questions as we're going along, I'll be watching in the main channel. Adam's got the FHM channel. I see a few people are over there, so ask in either place and we'll keep an eye out for them. I guess probably show the custom first, Adam.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's kind of the thing that a lot of people are excited for.
Hang on, let me just shuffle my screens around here so I can.
I will point out, if
see
you are
everything at once.
buying a copy or planning on buying a copy of FHM 10 on Steam, wish listing us is always a good idea.
Yeah, please do. Also helps a little bit with the amount of coverage we get on the first day in placement. So new custom screen. You can see this is a little different from the way it used to be. We used to have the options stacked up in the center. What we've got now is 2 separate options up here. Add regular fictional league, which is basically the old the ad league, basic ad league option. Still got the old 3 NHL setups. You could really do all of these, I think, with the new import system as well, but just left them on here for convenience. The promotion relegation fictional league, that is a separate button. If you want to set up a league system with promotion and relegation, you need to do it this way. I'll just quickly jump through that so you can see how it works. So you always start with your first team. I'm going to just make a small one here. And I'll just use all the basics. I won't change up anything from the defaults. So there's your first league. And that's created. And this is pretty much the same as it is before. I don't think we've changed too much, if anything, in there. So that is our top level league created. Now, I could leave it there. I would just have the top league. There would be no relegation league below it. But now when I click Add League, I can add a league that's separate from the promotional relegation system, or we can add the bottom half of this. So what it'll be, when I click on the league type option, I get the HOL relegation league, the HOL being the league I just set up previously. So do that. All I've done is select the lower league type, pretty much the same as before. Run through it all, start her up, and give it a second here. And usual challenge mode screen. And I'm just going to start unemployed so you can see the 2 halves of it. And so you got Hockey League and Hockey League 2. What'll happen at the end of this? In fact, I think it's just a 16 leagues, so I wonder if I can bomb through this really quickly. May take
Yeah.
too long, but
Just a question from the chat while you're doing
yeah,
that,
go
Jeff.
ahead. Yeah, it's going to go through
Um,
this fast. We can show it off.
GHS Mercer says, "Hi guys, quick question I asked in the forums, but we're busy and we can't always answer things.
Yeah.
Do you plan on adding the QMJHL new fighting rules into FHM 10 or in a future update?"
Not exactly. Right now, I've got it set up so if you fight in the queue, you get suspended for a game. So it's not exactly the real fighting rule. And I also cranked the fighting frequency down by about a third. I'll keep an eye on what the real thing's doing. I may go farther down than that. But I think we're going to have to take a look at some point as to the way the fighting rules work in the game. Because they're not that great. The way the game works right now isn't that great for Europe either. And put in there the automatic option to eject guys from the game if they fight. But that'll be, yeah, I think maybe try and do that for an update this year. Okay, so this is end of the season, June 30th. Gone through the playoffs. Who won the League Two championship was won by Charlotte. So they should be the ones getting promoted. It's the playoff champion that'll go up. And League One, the Edmonton Seawolves, which is a fascinating name.
Absolutely.
Are in last place, so they should go down. So save that quickly. Going to jump to July 1st, and we should see Edmonton and what was the name again? Charlotte swapping places next year. Oops.
So while we're on the note of things, as
on
well,
the on the note of things,
on the note of things, well, we had some news, with FHM, with the Ottawa Senators not firing, but Pierre Dorian has stepped down as a GM because he cost them a first round pick.
Yeah, and then Shane Pinto getting suspended too, and the new owner is
Yeah.
not happy about all of this. Okay,
No,
so
so
just showing what's happened here. You can see Edmonton is now down in the second division, and Charlotte up in the higher league. Charlotte apparently being run by Bill Simmons.
interesting.
Giving up on the writing career, apparently. And Edmonton, and yeah, pretty much no special rules or anything that releases players, anything like that. So it's a fairly basic promotion relegation system to start out. You can't chain multiple leagues together yet. That's kind of the next step that I want to add in that. So you can have the whole football pyramid style if you want to go 8 leagues deep with everybody getting promoted up or down. Can't do that right now, but hopefully coming soon. So it's just a 2-league option for that at the moment for the promotion relegation. Anything else in promotion relegation? Let me take a quick check at my notes. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to mention. Yeah, in fact, it wasn't even that set of notes I'm looking at, so pointless to look there. Okay, so I'll go back out, and I'll show you the other big new custom thing. When you're adding a regular fictional league, this will take you into what looks pretty much like the old screen. Only now you got this import league button. And you can see you can change the start year. You can, same options as before, use the initial draft. The use real players option is kind of irrelevant here because you're going to be importing over the top. In fact,
would that affect rookies at all?
Say again?
Would that affect like incoming rookies at all?
How do you mean?
Like for future draft picks?
You lost me.
Well, if you're importing, like, say, the NHL,
yeah,
is it gonna, if you use real players, is it going to allow imported, like the draft picks who are coming in the next draft?
don't think it does that. No, I think it only. Oh wait, I honestly can't remember for sure. I can't remember how we've got that set up. If it takes some of the.
Okay, well, yeah, someone's gonna want to know that.
Yeah. But anyhow, we selected import league there. Going on to the next step. This is the new screen. You've got the import league instructions. You can either take if you want to take a modern league. And obviously the big change here, you can see all these leagues in here. Most of these aren't playable in the standard game. You've got let's see, well, BCHL junior. Well, that's kind of in contention now, but more or less junior A. Bosnian League, the second. Well, it's called the first division, but it's the second level of Danish hockey. Uh, Lower level Japanese league, various British leagues, et cetera, going. So you've got, I don't know, I think it's 2 or 3 times the number of playable leagues.
So hypothetically, you could put every single league here and put it into a game and make it work.
You better have a really good computer if you're going to do that, but yes.
Yes, this comes up. Somebody, FMK Fish asks, I know the smaller league you had running, but it's a simulation engine speed been improved?
Other than, well, I mean, there's various
There's
small
always
improvements we
updates.
made, but nothing won't be a significant change this year, I don't think. So let's see. So what I can do here is import the modern Manitoba Junior League. I think we'll do that, but let me just show you the other option here. Historical imports, and you've got the 4 league types. So the NHA, NHL, WCHL, which is also the PCHA and WHL at various points, and the WHA. And if I take one of these teams, oh no, I'm not importing an individual team. I would be importing the whole league. So obviously, if I select NHA, it's gonna the latest year I can pick is 1960, and that'll go back to 1909. NHL will be 1917 to 2022. So this, if you choose this, it's just importing the league out of the historical database, as it would be if you imported a league or if you started a historical game in that year. It won't have all the historical features. It won't be bringing in the real rookies after the first season. It'll be generating new ones. But you can pick out the year where you want to start in and then just progress your league from there. We've had a few requests for that. So, but I'm going to go back to modern, and this year's Manitoba Junior League, the year button, see, it's modern, doesn't do anything. And go to the next step, and it's importing all teams and players now, and boom, there we go. There's the teams of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, Junior A League, part of the CJHL. And you can see why this is a good example. In a lot of cases, the team data isn't really complete because these weren't playable leagues. Just haven't had the manpower to go through everything. I will try to get to all these at some point and give you default starting data. But if you're importing a non-playable league for a custom game, you're probably going to have to go through and do a lot of setting of and set and edit all the league settings and a lot of the team settings into what you want manually. They will have some things completed, like they've got all the arenas here with the right capacities and so on, but that varies a lot from league to league depending on how much time we've had to put into it and what our intentions were. I mean, with the junior A leagues, I've been wanting to get them playable for quite a while, but so the data is in a little better shape than some leagues. Some leagues it'll be worse than this, so you'd want to set your market and fan settings to something a little more realistic. But I can then go through, pick out your playoff system, and usual things like league rules and scoring levels down there. I think it would generally be a good idea when you're starting with a imported league. Call it that. And I could go back and add in, and if I wanted to set up the whole CJHL league structure and put in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and everything except the BCHL, since they're no longer part of that. But if I want to do the whole Junior A structure in Canada, I could put that all together into one custom game, and starting with the real players. So start the game, and it takes a little
All right.
while to copy. The more it'll be really slow if you're importing a ton of leagues. And I will start this on July 1st.
So we can make any edits we need to.
Yeah.
Jeff, another question from the chat was from Primus Pontifex says, how does draft work in promotion relegation league?
Uh,
Assuming there's
right
one in.
now, no draft. We're probably going to hoping to add some options to it, but the way the custom leagues work right now, it's kind of borrowed heavily from out of the park. There's stuff, a lot of it, I really don't like aspects of that. My original design was a little more elaborate and would have given us a better drafting system. But right now, it's basically all incoming junior players are free agents, so every team can try to sign them. It works sort of like a
So basically, a Toronto Maple Leafs biggest fanfare.
yeah. Actually,
Why can't everybody sign with the Leafs?
I'm trying to remember now. I can't remember if there's a way that those can be assigned. No, I think it's just coming in as free agents. So it works vaguely similarly to the way a European league without any would work without any draft. Since I mean the promotion relegation is primarily a European thing. I do want to get a draft in there at some point, but then that raises a bunch of difficult questions about aside from how mechanically do we handle draft picks if a team is say is demoted but they've traded draft picks, which draft are they a part of, or do we do one big draft combined for all the leagues in the system? If so, how do we handle that? It's kind of messy.
So
So
it might
for
end up being kind of like systems, possibly.
but you can
Like,
see,
yeah.
but just for here, we've got you get the generic logos, and I think that is I think those will be the real players. Should be. I think this is post the update. So the Neverville Nighthawks, and they've got I think the correct colors. Obviously, Neverville, Manitoba is not a big market. I would need to turn commissioner mode on and set it to something more appropriate, like small and like that. So I can set up the attendance however I want, and all the stuff that's editable for a custom league. Remember to save it at the end. Go through all of that, get it set up, and then play my league from there. Was there a quote? What was that quote? Did you just answer, Adam? Oh,
Smelling Rusty Geek asked, do
the
you
neck
think
guards.
neck guards will be mandatory in the NHL soon? Well, the WHL actually just mandated them starting Friday.
I think it's going to depend more on their insurers.
Well,
If they, yeah,
I typed out in our one chat, I said the NHL will not mandate them because they can't mandate them.
yeah,
The NHLPA will not allow that. What will likely happen is it will be a grandfather ruled in, much like the visors were.
visors and helmets.
Yeah,
Where you had
and
was it Craig McTavish, the last helmetless guy?
I believe so. Yes, in
Yeah,
'98. Yeah, and that'll be how it comes in. But it's nice, I think, is maybe the best right word to see. You're seeing players already recognizing after the horrific events in Britain. I know the Jets, for instance, had four guys
yeah, I saw that too.
smack them on already, and there's a bunch of Pittsburgh guys, and yeah.
Okay, so I think that's the two biggest things for custom. Probably a few other things in there. Let's see. Oh, well, another thing I can show you from this screen. If I start a new historical game, you remember before we've done this a few times in our games, where we start as an expansion team. Who have we done from expansion, Adam? We did, yeah, well, your current Columbus historical game,
Columbus, yeah.
and then we've done it in other years. Didn't we do? No, it wasn't San Jose. We did somebody like that, I think.
Ottawa? We did an Ottawa?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, you're right. It was Ottawa.
I
So
mean, yeah, we've been doing this a long time.
yeah, but start a new historical game. Picking 1974 as the start year here, and don't need to change anything else. So we'll go through. We'll have a little bit of delay because I should have probably done the 67 one because that loads faster. But anyhow, we'll go through 74, and when they get to the end of this, I will grab Washington or Kansas City, and you can see what I wind up with. What rather so right now, rather than having to start a year before and play a fake season essentially to get to the point of having the expansion draft, instead of going through all of that and having a somewhat historically inaccurate start to your game, you can begin the season of the expansion draft. What we've done is take the old You know, same mechanic that we used for Seattle and Vegas when they came into the league. So you could start with them right from with the expansion draft right at the beginning of the standard game, rather than having to take their actual beginning roster. We've fitted that into the historical game, and now it'll work with any teams now. So to make that work, I wound up going back through now a bunch of different places that I managed to pull together what I think are pretty much 100% accurate protected unprotected lists for the drafts. All the historical expansion drafts going back to 67. So, oh yeah, I do have. No, I don't want to go to
Um,
challenge mode. I'm going to start as, let's say, Washington. And if I've done this correctly, there we go. So you get to set up your manager screen, and you've got the option to either redraft or use the actual roster. And did we change the names here? Yeah, we did. And you see the old Capitals logo there as well. I'm going to redraft. So
all right.
I'll just take the balance set up here, and what it'll pop me into is, there we go, the expansion draft. And you can see all the guys who were historically available. And some of them, I mean, guys that were taken, Simon Nalé wound up in Colorado. Denny DePere, did he go? He either wound up in, or sorry, not Colorado, Kansas City. He wound up in Kansas City, but I can't remember if Washington took him first and traded him or how that worked. The other thing that happens here that's new in historical expansion drafts is when you choose a player for, I think, all the NHL expansion drafts from 67 through the WHA merger in 79. They had a thing called the fill-in draft, or well, just the fill-in mechanic, where when an expansion team took a player that had been exposed, then the team that they had the player they had taken that player from got to protect another player. That's why the expansion. I mean, this is, if you look at this setup here, it's it's not
Quality
great,
player.
but there's some decent players. Van Boxmeer was a good player. Blake Dunlop wound up winning Masterton one year. Yeah, he was good. And what turned into like a good 60, 70 point defensive forward in the 80s. But you're only going to get about half the guys on this list being drafted, because the established teams are going to be able to protect one every time you grab somebody. So it really cuts down the talent pools, and if you're starting as an expansion team now, it's going to be a lot harder than it used to be. So I will I'm going to let the computer run through it, and let's see what kind of a roster we got. Yeah, I mean, this is actually probably slightly better than the real Capitals team in 74. But I mean, see, this looks like a team that's going to lose 60, 70 games in a 80 game season. And it's actually, it's
Is
quite
that
a,
Garth Brooks?
yes, it's Garth Brooks, Adam. Gord Brooks was a Blues, and I think it was one up in the Flyer system later. Played Maine of the AHL. But, and you wind up with something fairly close to the actual rosters. I think Atkinson was a Capital. Zegers, maybe. From Boz was Eddie Shack got picked. Bob Grip, another Capital. Tony White, Mike Marson. Yeah, so it's on a pretty, and Plass was Kansas City goalie. Bernie Wolf was Capitals goalie. I think John Adams was not the president. But he was one of the Caps goalies their first year too. And Bellemare, he was, yeah. So that's pretty close to the actual Caps goalie list from the first year. So you wind up with something that's much more similar to what the actual historical team started with. So no more easy first expansion seasons. So maybe we should make Adam do another historical game with Columbus and see how you do this time. With because that won't, the fill-in draft isn't in that year. So you
Well,
would,
it doesn't matter.
yeah,
We still had our free agent signings that
yeah.
did us well.
Okay, that I think is that for historical. Well, let me show you the other. I did made a couple of preloaded a couple of things. Whoops, should have turned saving off. That would load a little faster. But the other thing in historical, other big thing is we've added the NHA. So you're not familiar with that? This was the main professional league prior to the formation of the NHL. This starts in 1909, so it's adding 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 8 new years to the game. So it starts 8 years earlier. Gets a lot of great Hall of Fame guys that were a little too old to make it into the database with the 1917 start. And you
Well,
see,
uh, some were dead,
well, yeah, that too.
but also some of them were in. Help me out here, Jeff. They were in the other mode for historical, where you could have.
Oh, if you did the random start dates.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, but I can't
Yeah,
think of what that mode was called. I'm drawing a blank, and this is terrible.
yeah. So they'll be, yeah. I mean, they're still in that, but now you get
Random debut.
yeah,
Random debut.
random
There's the word
debut.
I'm looking for.
So this one, Cobalt Silver Kings, a little mining town up near Lake Temiskaming, which I think what I can't remember if I said this last week. For our ongoing game this year, I think I'm going to try to do a Canadians replay from 1909 up to hopefully somewhere close to the present. We'll see how far we get, and I'll go into the history of all of this a little bit more. But the NHA, when it started out, basically it happened because the some of the major teams in the old was it the Eastern Canadian? I can't remember the order of the names. Basically, several of the established teams got into a dispute with the Montreal Wanderers, who wanted to downsize their arena, and they sort of said they started this new league that didn't include the Wanderers. Wanderers owner got annoyed, and the new
No.
league also rejected. There's a guy named Ambrose O'Brien, a sort of mining magnate up in northern Ontario, who had his own sort of little house league in places like Cobalt and Haileybury, and also Renfrew, which is a little farther south. So they talked to the Wanderers owner, and he talked to the two of them talked and said, "Well, let's start our own league." And then what happened was the new league that the Wanderers had been kicked out of failed almost immediately. They had terrible attendance, and the league fell apart quickly. So that brought the Senators and Shamrocks into the league as well. And
Yeah.
they'd also, when they were setting this up, decided, hey, we need, well, we got the English Canadian team is the Wanderers in Montreal. We really need a
Yeah.
French team. So said to the yeah, Jacques Laviolette, one of the more prominent French Canadian players, hey, why don't you set up a team and we'll give you a franchise in Montreal with to play with these other, well, 4 teams initially, then eventually 6. And that's how the Montreal Canadiens got started. They sort of stole the name of the Canadian Athletic Club. I'll go into a little more detail about that when we do that stream. But you can see them. This is the very first version of the Canadiens. And you can see Laviolette, who's basically their running the team, is also probably he's their best player at this point. A few other recognizable names. Katarinac wound up owning them at one point. Didier Pitre, who's I think he's in the Hall of Fame, pretty sure he is. But you can see it's primarily French names, so that's how that team worked. And you've got one of the various logos, and not exactly the traditional what you're used to for the Canadians uniforms, the blue and white in the first season. They go through a different uniform pretty much every season, or I think that they use the same one twice at a couple of points, but you'll see about 5 different uniforms in the NHA years. Were you going to ask
Yeah.
something, Adam?
No, I was just going to point out to. Well, again, you talked about the one point was the Canadians were the French team and the Wanderers were the English team. But the best part is, Jeff, which you didn't really get to, is why the NHA failed, or rather, why it folded.
Well,
And
that's
again, they.
because everybody hated the Toronto owner.
Yeah.
And it's also noticeable in this first season, the whole situation with Toronto in the NHA is going to be a fun one to play through, but obviously they're not there at all in the first year. Then you start to get various combinations of franchises. There's 2 at one point, or there's 2 at various points. Uh, they're all kind of struggling. Hockey support in Toronto was not that strong in these first few years, Then you 1916, the last year of the league, with the war on, players are being drafted and having to go overseas. Some of the owners decide to allow the 228th Battalion, the Northern Fusiliers, to have their own team in the league. So this will be in if you that team will be there if you can make it to 1916. And they grabbed a bunch of players. They were playing out of Toronto, which really made Eddie Livingstone, the Toronto owner, unhappy. And Livingstone was kind of a sort of an all-around pain in the ass to the rest of the league. So finally, they decided, forget it. We're gonna start our own league and get rid of this guy. That's how the NHL started, expressly to get rid of the problematic Toronto owner. If only they had done that in the early 1980s too. Sure, Toronto fans would be much happier.
Well, yeah, so fascinating history with some of the stuff there. Yeah, and again, we spent a lot of time trying to find out information and get it stuff for some of these teams for their logos and
Yeah, but as you can see,
jersey
there's
reconstructions and
the various old jerseys are there. Hockey Player 13 on our forums has done a great job with these, and Adam has pulled together some of the logos as well. I think I did a couple too. The 228th, well, we won't see that. We're not in 1916, but we couldn't find a logo for the 228th Battalion, so Adam just did a thing with their military cap badge. So that's what
well,
that
no,
is.
that's basically what their logo was.
Yeah, I mean, and we're still a little unclear about exactly what color the uniform was, so we'll have that figured out by release and have it in there. But
P. Wog is in our chat, and he just says that it's been announced that the Canadian's minority owner, who owns the Senators, has sold his stake
for
at a record
$2.5 billion
2.5 billion. Yeah.
for a 10% stake, so the Canadians are apparently worth 10 or $25 billion.
No. Oh no, no. I would assume it was the team is worth 2.5, so his
Oh, I thought.
evaluation would be worth less than that.
Oh, is that? I thought he was selling the 10% share for 2.5. I may have read
No,
that
no,
wrong.
no. There's no way. There's no way it's worth that much.
Yeah,
Not even an NFL team is worth that much.
true. Yeah.
So he probably got, well, what if it was a 10% stake? He would have got 250 million.
Von Blade in the OTP chat. I'm delighted you managed to keep the non-US leagues in, unlike OTP. Sometimes keeping stuff as much as a selling point as new stuff. Yeah, I won't say too much there lest I get myself in trouble, but that's not something you'll have to worry about with us. Uh, that's historical. I think there's. I can't remember. There's one. Was there? We showed the historical drafts, the fill-ins. No, I think that's a major historical stuff.
Yeah,
Uh, let's
cap
go to
most of it.
I've got a modern game that's a little bit in. I can show some of the scouting and other stuff in there. That's this one, I
Uh,
believe.
just another question going back to the Senators. AJ Dulis, is there any way to implement, or can he manually implement the Senators forfeiting their pick in either this year's, next year's, or the year after's draft?
I'll figure out something for it. They have to forfeit. They're just forfeiting the pick, right? They're not trading it.
No, it's forfeited either in 2024 or 25 or 26.
Oh, they've got a choice.
Yes, because I know you'll be super thrilled about that.
Oh yeah, that makes it even worse. Okay, well, we'll probably have to do this 2024 one. I'll see if we can just maybe hard code that in because there's.
I'd assume it'll be 2026, and it might end up being like moved back,
Okay, so
kind of like, yeah.
this is just a game I've started I started and then took over the Canucks. So I know the data may be a little weird on this because it's partway into season two, but oh, let's go to Vegas at 9:01, so we got that part right. And the Bruins of the Atlantic, so yeah, not bad. Uh, what did I want to show you here? Okay, well, one thing. See, now we've got a new option under Canada.
I was gonna say the first thing, Jeff, to notice and make sure people are noticing is the new font.
Oh yeah, this and the new. We've got the UI has changed a little bit. You can see the single color background, and they've done some changes to the menu bar here. I think that looks pretty good. And we switched to a new font. This is Georama is the name of the font. So you know it's good because it's got Rama at the end of the name.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I like it. I think from what the testers are saying, they find it a lot more readable too. It was a bit of a pain because we got As it turned out, the last one, Lato, was a really wide. No, it was yeah, it was unusually narrow actually, and we have to be careful about what we switch to because it would screw up the spacing in a lot of places. And I'm sure there's probably a couple of places we haven't found yet where the spacing is a little bit off, but we're gradually getting that all cleared up. But anyhow, the new playable league this year, or at least the starting playable league, and I think we may still add another one before we in one of the updates, but that's still to be determined. But the big one is Canadian University Hockey. So, a big chunk of our audience is Canadian. I'm assuming a lot of them went to school, and probably a majority at one of these universities. So you can play your alma mater now. University hockey in Canada is quite a bit different from American college hockey. Not really the big crowds, the amount of money going into it, and the players, they don't have the restriction that the NCAA has, where if you've played major junior, you can't play college hockey. That doesn't exist. So a lot of these guys are the products of major junior players who have decided not to turn pro, or have gone pro briefly, decided there's no future in it for them, and have gone back to school but still want to play a little bit of hockey. So these should be. I mean, there's UBC or U of M, Adam.
I am a U of M.
Yeah.
Yes.
Manitoba Bisons. Sadly, University of Victoria does not have a team, or at least not in this league. So I don't get to play my school.
I would point out there is occasionally, again, I can think of at least one NHLer who ended up in this league.
Yeah, sure. There's still a few guys that have potential at the top end of NHL
No, I mean an NHL player who ended up back in this league.
Oh yeah, it was what's his name?
Mike Danton.
Danton / Cole.
But yeah, there is guys who have gone from this league to the NHL, including one who's a starting goaltender right now.
Yeah, so there's not the professionalism restriction, and the most of the mechanics we added for U.S. college hockey, like the commitments and signing day. There's technically that stuff doesn't really work the same in Canadian hockey, but the mechanic is the best way to handle it. So it's in there for the Canadian League as well, modified somewhat. And there's just generally fairly different experience from managing a U.S. team. You got a little wider options when it comes to finding players, but you just don't have as much money or other resources to put into the players. But it's a fun one to play, and it's a fairly big league, so it's a bit of a challenge. There's a conference playoff at the end. Each of the individual, we had to split the Ontario University Athletics, the West and East divisions are treated as separate conferences. So there's a separate conference playoff for each of those. Real life, it's all one big thing, but it would be too messy to try and do it.
I will just point out for Jeff here, explaining it. If you're watching this and you're not familiar, again, the reason why lots of guys turn back from professional hockey in the first year or two and end up in this league is because if they played in the WHL, the OHL, or the QMJHL, they have just under 2 years to make a decision. If they played a certain amount of games, they get a 4-year scholarship to go to Canadian college.
I think you get a scholarship for every year you played at the major junior. I think that's how it works. A year of college paid for.
I think I think it can be a little bit more than that.
Maybe more.
But so some guys will go and try and do something and maybe make it in the A or the ECHL.
Yeah, the point is, if you play too many pro games, you lose that scholarship, which is
it's how long you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you'll see a lot of guys heading back to the college leagues. And yeah, I've seen same deal as with the U.S. teams. Last year, I've gone through and said, do we have the?
Yeah, yes, the Navy show says Joel Ward played 4 years.
Yeah, so scholarship limit, which is it's 14 across the board in U Sports. There's no individual variations like there is in Canadian college hockey. No rival right now, but they might wind up in a rivalry with Saskatchewan. And academic reputation is above average. Don't know about that. They let Adam in, and tuition cost is cheap. As
How
and
dare you?
it's the same tuition scale as with the American universities, so the Canadian ones tend to be much lower. Although I think there's was McGill an expense? No, I think it was Western. That was the they are, if I remember right. Oh, average. Yeah. So academic reputation excellent and tuition cost average. So that's all set up for the Canadian schools. For the American schools, oh, you won't see it in this one. Do I
Also,
have?
we just need to point out St. Francis Xavier has a great name. They're the X-Men.
Actually, I'll show that one to you later. I have to come back to the college stuff. The oh shoot, did I go past it? Ah, darn it! I meant to show you the new scouting assignment screen, but I think I've accidentally. Yeah, I went to the first. It shows up on the first, and I've gone past that in the save. So that was dumb. But at the start of every month, you'll get the opportunity to assign. You'll get a list of your scouts and a list of tournaments that are going to happen during that month. And tournaments being fairly broadly defined, it can be playoffs for any league. It can be things like international tournaments. Can be I'll show you the youth tournaments in a second.
Well,
The
we had a
mid
screenshot of it, right, Jeff?
Yeah, we do.
It is in the trailer.
But you can see the youth tournaments. This is completely new. It will the younger players in the game. This is meant to simulate things like this. Let me get up to it. The Calgary Under 18 tournament well is. Wait, I know it. I'm going to switch to the other save because it'll show this off a little bit better. It's from a previous build, so there may be some weird stuff in it. But you'll be able to see what's going on in these tournaments. Hopefully, we just did a new update today. I hope this is going to work properly with the older save, but cross your fingers. But the youth tournaments are things like the Quebec City Pee Wee tournament or the Max Milk tournament in Calgary, formerly the Max Milk tournament. It's not, it's something else now. The midget tournament in Calgary. These aren't set up exactly like them. You don't have specific youth teams that are there because it would be extremely difficult to simulate the number of teams at that level. But you can see in this case, this is a little farther along in the second year. The Calgary Under 18 tournament, and what it has rather than having, say, the Calgary Calgary Royals midgets, it's got one select team for all of Alberta, and then various teams from around the world. There's a Michigan team, BC team, Midwestern U.S., a couple of European teams, Ukraine, Switzerland, and a Japanese team. So they play their tournament out, and you can send your scouts out to watch this, and you'll get a scouting report at the end of it, listing any notable players he found, what players overperformed or underperformed, and if you're looking at this, if you're say in an NHL team, you're probably not going to be putting too much stock into what's going on at the under 14 tournaments, but that's something that's very useful for scouting the if you're scouting, say, as a junior team, particularly the WHL, where you're drafting players at 14, or this
Yes.
the under 18 tournament here. If you're a college team and you want to scout guys and see how they've been doing and build up a little bit of a scouting record on them, lets you get their scouting data. Add a little bit of scouting data to them. Some of these guys have. Oh, I see. It's showing the logos for the wrong team number, so you're getting some NHL ones showing up. But yeah, so you got those tournaments going on. You can scout those, and so you get the scouting report at the end of that. What was I going? I was going to show you the college transfer portal. This
While you're doing
is
this, Jeff, there's a question in the chat we didn't get to earlier, and I just want to bring it
yeah.
up. Is
Oh,
that
go ahead.
okay?
Yep, good.
On guard for he said, with respect to the NHL draft, after you play about 3 seasons, the fourth draft seems to get a little bit disappointing after the first or after the top 10 picks.
Yeah, I know there's a few
Has there
issues
been
with
some
that.
adjustments made?
Where I'm working on that actually right now. That's going to be doing some more on that later tonight. Actually, uh, it's a little bigger problem than I initially realized. So it may take me a couple of updates to get it completely worked out. But yeah, we're aware of it and are gradually working that down. It's a little basically it's not that the later drafts are bad; it's the initial ones are too good. So we're going to be doing something about that, and I'll try to get into pretty reasonable shape for the release, and then do a little more fine tuning after that in the coming couple of weeks or so. But this is the new thing for American college hockey. Let me show you this screen. If you've got a player who's if you watched our Wisconsin stream, you probably noticed where, particularly with the goalies, I was stockpiling really good players, and a lot of them were sitting on the bench and doing nothing for most of their early college career. And that isn't really realistic because you've got, in real life, the transfer portal. If a guy's unhappy with his college team, he can opt into the portal and switch teams to another one before for the next season. So that's what's been going on here. I've fine-tuned it a little bit because this is a little excessive. You can see, Charlie Stramel, who was was one of our better players. Oh, he was kind of disappointing, come to think of it, in our Wisconsin game. But in this one, after his first season, he was unhappy for one reason or another with the team, and he's transferred to Minnesota Duluth. And this is the way the transfer portal works. It's set up like a draft, works the same way, or very similar to the other drafts. You don't draft a player literally. You nominate a player, and then anybody that's interested can compete for him. And the best offer that he gets, he'll go to that team. I think so. Yeah, you can see 100 and oh no, it's skipping some picks here. There's several dozen players. I think I've got it in the right ballpark for the number of real life transfers. So it's something you've got to contend with now. Let's see how many Wisconsin. Yes, so I've tuned it down a little bit since this. It was a little too active, but you can see a few of the guys that we had from our Wisconsin stream last year would have taken off after the first season because they didn't like the way they were being handled. Like, yeah, Lucius winds up Minnesota State, Whitelaw to Denver, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a new challenge for the American college hockey. That's not in Canadian since there isn't really a similar mechanic there. And Canadian guys don't tend to bounce from one school to another because they're really in school for more the degree than anything else. They're not, most of them at least, aren't probably going to go much further in pro hockey.
Yeah, there was a lot of first round picks in that
Yeah,
one.
okay.
Yeah.
What else have we got here? Talked about the fill-in drafts, the historical stuff. Oh, well, you're not going to be able to see it here. People have complained about this before, but the playoff scheduling, you remember the way the playoffs used to work. Teams would play, all the series would be held on the same day. So if you got, NHL with 8 first-round series, they would all run on the same day. Everybody would have a day off, then there'd be another one the day before. It doesn't do that anymore. It's staggered out in a more realistic way. So you get hockey every night, and there's a little variation in the number of days between series that teams have. That's the staggered schedules. Oh, media relations.
You want to look at? Okay. Yeah.
No, what were you going to say?
No, that was going to be that, or look at the trade screen.
Yeah, actually, let's go back to the other my Canucks one for both of those. Wow, this is
Fine.
I realized it was this late. Yeah. But,
people are excited to get their hands on this, which is good.
Media relations, the trading stuff. What else do we need to hit? Show them that new roster stats screen. Tournament scouting we mentioned. Youth scouting we mentioned. New awards. Oh, actually, this sort of dovetails into the other thing we were talking about with player quality. We made some changes where it's a lot harder for players to develop if they're not in a top level league or not hard. It's harder for elite players to develop if they're not in the top level league. So that will have some effect on the sort of bloated talent pools you would get in the NHL after a few seasons. You won't see as many NHL caliber guys sitting around as free agents. Trade screen first, I guess. I'm playing as a Canucks, and you can see it's labeled trades and transfers now. I can't remember what the name was before. I've changed it, but and the way this works, you can see there's the standard old trade screen. That works pretty much exactly as it used to. The needs screen, what I can do here is set out exactly what I want. So let's say I want to find a defenseman for the Canucks. I filter out everything except defenseman. Let's say, well, it's unrealistic, but I won't care about the cap hit. Contract expiry can be anytime. And I want to
Oh,
find somebody fairly decent. So let's say at least a 3-star defenseman. And you can see that it's, as I change this, it's actively filtering it. But what I can do is, let's say maximum 27 years old. Now you can see that's actively filtering it right now because I've got the selection all players matching listed needs. What I can do is set that as my active needs. You see it copies it down into this field. And if I switch, it won't actually change anything because I've still got that set as the needs, the listed needs up here. But that filters for the active needs. And then if I wanted to say, change that to goalies matching the same other criteria, it'll give me the list of those, but then I can still go back to the list of matching the active needs, which is the defensive thing I had set up earlier. So you basically get to save one thing as your active needs, and then you can always revert back to that and show players matching whatever your other criteria, your temporary criteria. And I can also show players on the trading block that match my active needs. Oh, that's why did it's not filtering that properly. It's giving me centers instead of defensemen. We got to fix that. That's on the bug list tonight. But that should be showing defensemen who are both on the trading block and list my meet my active needs. I could also, this is in this. I've got a couple of guys. So yeah, I've got Besser and Pedersen on the trading block just to give you, because I know it would trigger the examples here. If I use this, teams with potential interest in your trading block players, it lists every player on your trading block and which teams have got the most interest in them. Obviously, lots of teams are going to be interested in those two guys, but it gives you a starting place to go to. And when you mouse over them, you've still got the strength, weakness, and outlook selections on the pop-up, so you can use that to refine who you want to go after. And the other thing is best potential trading partners. What this is doing is just comparing your strengths with their weaknesses. So the Bruins match, they've got a weakness center, we've got centers. They've got strengths at goalie and defense. We're probably in the Canucks, so we're a little weaker on defense, so that makes sense to fit there. So that's the needs screen.
AJ Duo says, "Why is Stitzel there?" Ottawa is in terrible cap issues right now.
Yep.
Like, I'm not saying they would trade Stitzel, and they would need a lot to get him, but at the same time, they're dealing with massive cap issues. Which is why they couldn't get Shane Pinto signed right now, which is the least of their problems right now. And same thing for seeing.
Yeah. And okay, the new shopping screen. Remember, everyone knows how shopping used to work. You right-click on a player's name. Actually, I'll show you. I'll approach it from a different way. Let's say I want to trade Tyler Myers. Used to be I would go up, trade options, place or shop player, and what it would do is check for offers, and it would send them back to my mailbox. No more of that. The shop player thing, right-click, just takes you to this screen now, and automatically fills it with the player you want. And you can specify what you want back, whether it matches only your active needs. or anybody, or you can just specify that you want draft picks. Because Adam and I have run into this a lot, where you're a little close to the cap and you want to dump some guys just to save cap space and get a draft pick in return. You can do that easily using the shopping feature now if you can just specify what draft picks you want. The other thing I can do is, let's see, oh yeah, right, shop button. I keep forgetting how that works. Okay, and even though I've already got one guy up here, I can shop two guys at once and get offers for say Myers and Beauvillier at the same time. And I could also add draft picks to it, but there's a limit of 2 items now, so you can't do package giant things together and try to get a response to that. You're limited to 2 things at the moment. And the only offer I get back is that's not great. Chicago offers me Joey Anderson and Nick Foligno.
Well, what are those guys?
Saves me about $5 million in cap hit, but they get Beauvillier is the best player in that group. Just he's 10 years younger than Foligno, so cap hit for a younger player basically. But that's the new shopping screen now. It's a lot more similar to the way the one out of the park works. Few differences were necessary just because our game works a little differently than theirs does. But you can do a lot more with it now, and it's in a nice self-contained UI. You don't have to screw around with the whole responding to each offer that you're made. And I'll go back to that screen. Let's say I accept it, instantly clears it too. You don't have to do Adam's old thing of having to go back and reject every single offer. So that trade has been made, and I've got those two guys now, and that's all there is to it.
AJ Jewis asking, are rentals buys more frequent and closer to the deadline for playoff pushes?
Yeah, we upped that quite a bit last year, so you should see. Quite. I remember during testing, I noticed I was doing quite a bit of that, moving players, and it'll always depend on things like available cap space in the individual situation at the deadline. But I did notice a fair bit of trading activity, more than previous versions have had around the trading deadline. Okay, that was the trading screen. What else did we say? There was one other thing. This isn't it, but one thing we've done is there's now a stats button here. Instead of having
media? Is that?
Oh, the media, yeah. Instead of having to go down here, click stats summary or whatever else you wanted, just go to the roster screen, click stats. There you go. There's your stats. And you don't have to do the little trick of selecting only contracted players. This will show everybody who's played a game for your team this season. Not necessarily just like you can see Joshua here is on Abbotsford, but I'm still getting his stats on this screen. I don't have to.
Okay, just a point of clarity here, Jeff. You said anyone who's played a game for you. What if you've traded them?
I think that shows up here as well. Wait, does that we just traded to is
Tyler Myers?
Myers. Okay, no, I'm wrong. Those will be with the new team.
Yeah, it'll show people who are contracted.
It'll show you people who are currently contracted to you, basically.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Stat screen and wait, you just said it. What was it?
Media.
Oh, media. Right. One of the big. This is sort of the final corner of that whole system with team harmony and fan happiness. Also got on the home screen now. Oh, I'm surprised. Why is it showing? I think we broke something there in the new build. Yeah, something's definitely not right there. You would normally, this is just, we did this build this afternoon, so I think we've broken something there somehow. Normally, I think you'll see this in the screenshots, but you'll get a list of the players on your team who are currently the focus of your media, which, did we? Yeah, we show you, it shows for each team the level of media coverage you've got and the basic media attitude towards your players. San Jose, a lot of coverage. I mean, they're an NHL team, and the usual attitude towards your players is kind of neutral. Seattle, it's a new team, so more cheerleading type coverage, not too intensive on the players. But you get to say Montreal or Toronto, intrusive media coverage, and it tends to be negative. So if you're playing as the Leafs, you've got to deal with the Toronto media, or probably the worst possible case. There we go. Montreal as intrusive and antagonistic media. So have fun dealing with those. You'll get messages through the season. They're triggered by things like, the team harmony system. When there's an incident, the media will usually pick up on that and ask you for a response to it. Or if you've lost a few games in a row, or I think even after a bad loss, it may not necessarily all the time, but it will often ask questions or start criticizing players. The players will have varying levels of coverage. The more hostile the media is, the worse the player coverage tends to be. So if you've got media that's being really brutal towards your players, you've got to you can respond to them and try to deflect the criticism. You got to be careful with that though, because that will also affect your relationship with the media. If the media doesn't like you, that's not great for your job security.
Yeah. Just pointing out, P Cage 4 says, if you play as the Leaf, does the game admit fan happiness because management doesn't care about the fans?
Uh, they,
Uh,
they care about the fans in certain ways. They care about some
yes.
of the fans.
AJ Doulis asks, do you have any clarity on how Carolina's AHL situation is going to work?
I had to leave that in as with Chicago as their farm team. It just doesn't make any sense for them not to have a farm team like loaning out individual players, so they still have Chicago. They're still using Chicago as theirs, and I couldn't just leave them with an ECHL team because that would do ridiculous things to the ECHL if they're sending down their top guys. But I mean, it's Carolina, so you got the fairly short list of contracts, as they're deliberately not keeping a lot of players on their starting roster now. But yeah, no, that isn't quite accurate. And there was somebody else have a weird farm team situation this year. No, I think that's only the only one.
That's the only AHL one, yeah.
Yeah, and as like last year, there's a couple of teams that don't have formal ECHL affiliations, so they send their like the Canucks are one of them. They send their players down to a lower level than that. So you have to make a few little accommodations for stuff like that. But
Oh, where do the Canucks send down to?
Canucks, if you send, they will send to one of the non-playable leagues, the
Oh,
Mountain
okay.
Semi-Pro one. But most of them, like the top guys will go to Abbotsford. But if you wanted to send somebody down a level below that, like you would normally do with an ECHL team, if they had one, like is Winnipeg's ECHL team?
Norfolk.
Yeah. See, they've got Manitoba and Norfolk as their options, but the Canucks have basically an AHL team and probably a team at a level you don't really want to send any players to because it won't be good for their development. Okay. So do we have any other questions?
I think that's most of them important ones, although Smelly Wrestling Geek wants to know your over-under for Sharks wins this year.
They haven't won one yet, have they? Don't think so.
I don't think they're going to be historically bad.
Let's say 10. No, I think they'll be better than that. But yeah, it's going to be a rough year for them. How are they doing in? Oh, they went 4-5 to start the season. This one, maybe I got to look at their ratings a little bit.
Their goaltending has been surprisingly good.
Yeah, well, so is ours too. I'm still not entirely believing how well the Canucks are doing. We'll see how that works out. And then,
On guard for the just wants to know if there's been any adjustments for end of season awards.
oh, thank you. Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to get to. End of season awards changed the logic on a couple of things, but the much bigger thing is that we've now got. Do I still have that July 1st? Yes, I do. Good. I can show you this actually.
Yeah, Smelly Wrestling Geek, the over-under I think would be about 20 wins for that team.
I don't think they're making it to 20.
I don't know. They got to play the Canucks what 6 times, so that's 6 wins.
Yeah, bite me. Okay, you can see the So there's the typical awards, but we've also. Oh wait, they're not showing up. That's weird. I know we just fixed that. Okay, we're gonna have to take another look. But trust me on this, there are a bunch of new award options. They're just not here on the league screen for some reason when they should be.
This is this
We've
is a
had,
custom.
yeah, it's a custom game. Maybe it's not
Yeah.
copying them over properly. We got to check. Oh no, it's because of the import. The importer busted them. If I set up
Okay.
a new kids custom league, we'd get them. But we're a little low on time now. But I will. We still have to. We're still supposed to have the options. So there's, I don't know, 15, 20 or so new options like most assists, best defensive defenseman. So you can, those are off by default except for the leagues that actually use them. A lot of them are awards that are common in European leagues, like best local player who's not necessarily playing in this league. Like the if you're playing in the Swedish Hockey League, they'll do the Swedes do that? I think they award one for best Swedish player, so it'll be typically a Swedish NHLer. I think it was Carlson last year. The So there's that type of award. I think some of them have best import player. Some for the CHL has best academic player. So you can activate all those kinds of awards. The other thing is, it doesn't really do anything when you're in a custom game like that. Or well, if you changed the year, start year, it would. But you can specify the first year and last year of each award. So in historical now, you don't get the somebody winning the Mark Messier Leadership Award in 1920. It doesn't
What
kick in until whenever the real one came in.
is it? Just called Greatest Canuck of All Time award then?
Well, Canucks didn't exist then either, so no. No, the NHL starts with a fairly simple set of awards, and
Yeah.
well, I got to check the NHA to see if I've got the
And,
right one
and I
set
will
for
just
that.
point out,
Yeah,
as Jeff mentioned in the stream, and we should have mentioned this at the beginning, this is still a beta build of Franchise Hockey Manager,
and a brand new beta
which is
today,
why,
why a couple of
yes,
things are a little bit weird, but we'll try and get that all knocked out, and it'll be the same. If you're familiar with the way
Jeff,
we update, it'll work pretty much the same as in previous years, where we do the hot fix sometime in the first few days to get any big issues that have slipped through testing fixed as quickly as possible. Then we do another large update a week, usually probably about 2 weeks
to be
after that.
clear, yeah, to be clear, we feel pretty good about where things have been. We've been testing for quite a while.
Yeah, but
Um,
and
yeah,
then
and Jeff
the
isn't
first.
planning on sleeping for the next 6 days, so
Well, haven't been doing any of that lately anyhow, so won't be any
well,
change.
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And
Yeah,
then we'll probably do a big content update. First thing that adds major new features to the game or playable leagues or something like that. Haven't decided exactly what we're going to do yet, but there will be new stuff in the first content update, which will come out shortly before Christmas. And then the rest of it will probably pretty much match last year's schedule exactly, since we're launching within one day of the time we did last year. So that's how that will work. Anything else? Let me take one final quick look. Did a couple of things for multiplayer leagues. Added a few new things today. Well, we made some 2D improvements. Can't really show that quickly. For multiplayer leagues, we add some ease of use things for the commissioners. It'll kind of help their job out a little bit. They're just news. Oh, we still got to test that out in the next few days, but I think that'll be helpful. You can also, I think I mentioned this last time. You're not limited to, if you're on Windows, you're not limited to installing to the documents path anymore. You can put your save files and your game data files wherever you want on your system. I've got this installed on a completely separate drive now, so I don't have to worry about my C drive filling up anymore. And it runs a little faster because this is on a better SSD than the main one. But yeah, so that'll help, I think, with a lot with people who were getting, because Microsoft did that stupid thing where they when you're setting up Windows, I think it will default to sharing your documents drive with OneDrive, their cloud backup system thing, which is a real mess when you're doing with a game like this where that does a huge amount of file access and saving stuff every few seconds. If you get one little glitch somewhere in your internet while that's happening and it's copying a file to Microsoft's cloud, the game gets corrupted. And I think having the option of being able to install it somewhere other than the documents folder will really help with the number of corrupted save files we see, and will also be helpful for the multiplayer commissioners too, because that was a big problem for them. Things not syncing properly, and because of that OneDrive thing. So that should be pretty useful. And I think we covered pretty much everything. We're way over time here.
Yeah, we're
Any
so close.
other remaining questions?
I think we got most of them, most of the important stuff, anyways. Again, we'll be on the forums and on Discord as best we can, but again, we're very busy in the lead up to the game. We will be back next week, which will be the day after the game launches, to do our regular stream. There's a chance we might stream exclusively on Tuesday, November 7th as well. You never know.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out. If we do, it'll be on our Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/franchise hockey manager. Anyways, Jeff, is there anything else? Or
No, just if anybody missed it, again, the launch time is going to be about 5 in the morning Pacific time on November 7th. So uh, please, if you're on Steam, you can buy, even if you're not, even if you're not going to planning on buying on Steam, but you've got a Steam account, please wishlist us there. That helps with the amount of exposure we get on the first day, and it's really critical. The way Steam works, first day sales and wish lists and that sort of things are really important on what kind of placement you get in the first day, which also really has a big influence in the number of incidental sales you get, and makes a big difference in the overall numbers. So please wish list if you can. Do you want me to run the trailer again, Adam? Or I think everybody's seen it at this point and has had.
I think we're probably getting that. I can just do the wrap up here if you'd
Yeah,
like.
okay, go ahead.
All right, with that, so thank you very much for tuning into another Franchise Hockey Manager stream. We typically stream every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/franchise hockey manager, as well as twitch.tv/OOTP developments. All of our streams are archived on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/OOTP developments, as well, with stream archives going live Sundays at about 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time most of the time, although this one might go up a little bit quicker as well. You can also reach out to us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/franchise hockey manager. On Twitter, we are at franchise hockey. You can find a link to our official Discord and our Twitter bio as well. And of course, come on down to our official website, which is ootpdevelopments.com. Click on the community button in the top right-hand corner, which will bring you to the official forums, where you can come talk about Franchise Hockey Manager, Out of the Park Baseball, Perfect Team Go, or anything else you wish to discuss.